Hello, this is Roy Hill with Brownells. We're here at the Brownells booth at the 2018 SHOT Show, and it's our great privilege and honor to have Mr. Al Mampre here on the booth to do a Facebook Live video for us. Al, thank you so much for coming.
It's my pleasure to be here, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And we're going to have some fun here. Just to let you know, Al was a member of a little organization. Well, I'll let you say that. What? A little organization about 70-something years ago.
Yes, it was. I had volunteered to become a paratrooper, and they acknowledged my request and sent me to Toccoa, Georgia, where they were forming a regiment at the time. And so we were right at the Cutco, and I was assigned to E Company.
The Easy Company.
Easy Company, yeah, which became the Band of Brothers, and later on. And then later on, I was infantry. Fortunately, they came in with the formation of medics after they formed the regiment.
Right.
And they asked me if I wanted to be a medic. And I wanted to be a medic. That was great.
To be a medic from the get-go.
Yeah. Second place, if I'd have stayed an infantryman, I would have shot more of my own people. I was terrible on the range. They might as well taken down the target and just kept waving that red flag.
So you understand, as the old Clint Eastwood movie line, a man's got to know his limitations, and you figured out you could do more good being a medic.
Well, I like the idea of being a medic.
You like the idea of being a medic, yes.
I like the idea of plugging holes instead of making holes.
Plugging holes instead of making holes. I can absolutely understand that. Now, you've said a couple of times as I was chatting with you before we got started that you decided from the very beginning that you wanted to become a paratrooper.
Yes.
How and why did that happen?
Because it seemed to me like it'd be an interesting thing to do in the Army, a little different and a challenge. And I was always ready for a challenge.
You're always ready for a challenge, and nothing like jumping out of a perfectly good airplane for a challenge.
Yeah, they thought we were stupid because the planes were perfectly good and we were jumping out. Actually, the first 7 flights I took was the first 7 flights I'd ever been in a plane.
And you jumped out of every one of them.
Yeah, that was after we got our wings, you know.
So the first 7 times in your life you were ever on an airplane was an airplane you actually jumped out of.
And the 8th time they moved us, and we were awed to a person on that plane
so you had to
that this thing actually landed.
It wasn't going to land. You had to wait to your 8th flight to actually experience a landing. That's quite.
They just moved it by plane that time.
Okay. Of course, the attack on Pearl Harbor is one of those seminal moments in American history, and people tell stories like this all the time. Do you remember where you were and what you were doing?
Very vividly. I was watching. I think it was a Washington football game when the announcement came in. I was at home, and we had the radio on with a little sign said "Television Ready." That's about all it was ready for with the sign. But that announcement came in, and that changed things a lot.
Instantaneously.
Absolutely, that made a world difference in the whole country.
I also know that you've got a very good friend named Ed Pepping.
Yes, I do.
And I've read that, as you said, you volunteered to become a paratrooper, and they said, okay. And you went to Toccoa, Georgia. You met Ed on your very first day at Toccoa.
Yes, that evening, I saw this fellow, and we walked out on that little field right near the cow company, a W company, is where we were all housed at the beginning, out there in the mud and the water. And there was a tower there with a simulated door to a C-47 at the top, a little makeshift portion of an airplane. We said, oh boy, they're going to want us to jump out of that. We don't want to be chicken. We don't want to suffer the ignominy of being thrown out, you know.
Right.
Because we both wanted to be paratroopers.
Right.
So we went up and jumped out. It was 35 feet off the ground, and luckily a lieutenant happened to come out, and he was looking around. He said, what are you guys doing? We told him what and why.
Right.
He said, well, we haven't finished building that thing yet. There's going to be a cable that goes from that door all the way down to the ground. And well, luckily neither of us got hurt.
Nobody broke an ankle or anything.
You know, actually more people washed out on that little tower than they did at Benning. They just couldn't stand that height.
And you had no trouble because you and Ed had already jumped out with no cable or no belaying system.
That's when I had the suspicion that what they had done was looked over the whole army and got the dumbest guys they could find, put them all in one regiment so they knew where they were, you know.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's fantastic. That's an awesome story. So, of course, you went through the entire training.
Yes, we had a...
And then you were sent to England in preparation for the invasion?
Yes. Yes. Well, we started preparing way back in the States, but it was stepped up when we got into England, yes. And the people were just absolutely wonderful. They treated us nicely, and we liked them, and we know what they had been through.
Right. And even though you'd been through the training, I've read that you actually weren't able to participate in the D-Day jumps.
No, I wasn't. It was Ed's turn.
It was Ed's turn.
Yeah, I was in the hospital with a massive swelling here that was going to kill me, my major medical officer said. So they sent me to the hospital about a week and a half before D-Day. And then when I heard they were gone, all that training, and here I am sitting in a hospital.
Was it an allergic reaction, or what was it?
No, it was a cyst of some kind. It just kept spreading. It's a sebaceous cyst.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So when were you able to finally rejoin your unit?
Well, I rejoined them back in Auburn again, where we were, when they came back.
When they came back from France?
Yeah.
Yep.
And took it from there. Then I went on to Belgium and Bastogne and Germany, and then all the way up to the Eagle's Nest.
All the way to in Berchtesgaden.
Yeah, Berchtesgaden.
Yeah. Now, of course, your first combat jump was actually you were part of Operation Market Garden.
Market Garden in Holland, yeah. And I can't say enough for the Dutch. They were absolutely magnificent. They would come running out to help us, even under fire, without any arms or anything.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my! To this day, when you're in one of their fairs, when they are celebrating their liberation, the older people are crying when they see us. We wouldn't be here, or we'd be speaking German, and the young ones said we wouldn't have probably even been born. And, I mean, they're serious.
Yes.
And the children all have texts on freedom. They don't take it for granted.
They don't take it for granted because they know within a generation what it's like to have it taken away by force.
That's right. Oh, do they?
I've also read that on your first combat jump, you had a little bit of a misadventure getting down out of the air.
Well, I knew which way I was going, but and I always lit standing up. I would slip my chutes because you don't want to be dangling around up there.
Right.
And then pop it open, bang! I'd be right on the ground standing up. This one time, we were jumping into combat in near Zaan, preparatory to go in towards Eindhoven and open up the road so the British could come on through.
Right.
And about 75 feet off the ground, a fellow came through my chute, collapsed my chute. I know it was that high because at about 50, the ground seemed, you don't feel like you're falling in a chute. It feels like everything's coming towards you. It hadn't started that fast rush to the ground. And came through my chute, collapsed my chute. I landed hard on my back, and he landed on my chest.
Oh
and
my goodness.
He said, "Where's the enemy?" I said, "You're standing on him."
Standing on him.
But I never saw him anymore. And then another fella, Doc, they called all the medics Doc,
Right.
except for the Doc. They called him by rank, you know. He couldn't walk, his ankle. I said, "You better get off the field, they're firing on us." And but Doc, I can't, I'm in worse shape than he's in. And I set up a Novocaine, gave him a shot in the ankle.
Right.
I said, "Now take a drink of my water." Well, I carried all the field surgical equipment because I was in charge of the non-com in charge of the medic for the battalion, and 2 canteens of 180 proof ethyl alcohol. And I said, "Take a drink of my water." He says, "I've got one." I said, "Take a drink of mine." He took a drink of that. Wow, he jumps up in the air. "Where's the enemy?" Another one got one. I said, "Never mind that. Go to blue smoke at the edge of the woods. Go." Boy, when that wore off.
A shot in the ankle and a good shot. Another
Yeah, he had 2 shots.
He was ready to go to the
Upper and lower.
That's a fantastic story. Now, you've already mentioned, of course, the Bastogne. That's perhaps.
Let me tell you one more little
tell
story
me,
having
tell
to
me.
do with that.
Absolutely.
When I finally got into Zaan, the little town right near there, the Dutch were out there in the refinery and waving their orange flags. They're liberated. No way were they liberated. But anyway, suddenly a German machine gun opened up down the street. The Dutch were gone like that. They'd been there, done that. I stepped back in the doorway, and a woman's hand came out with a spoonful of cherries and was feeding me cherries from behind. There's machine gun fire going down the street, and she's feeding me cherries.
Cherries under German
War is hell, I tell you.
Gosh, that's been. If they had put that in the miniseries Band of Brothers, nobody would believe it.
No.
They would never believe that scene.
So many different things happen to people, you know. But I never saw her, because as soon as the firing stopped, I took off.
All you saw was her hand holding the spoon.
I'd recognize that arm.
To this day. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So, of course, probably the historical event that if people know only one thing about the 101st Airborne Division, they know about Bastogne.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What was it? What was the situation like when you guys first got there?
I was amazed. As we were coming in by truck. It was going to be a tailgate jump. Wow, we were tickled pink. We don't have to jump. We just jump out the truck, which I hated because with all your equipment and it's pretty high, you know, it was hard. But what stunned me was these troops going the wrong way, going out, like they're escaping, you know.
Right.
And they were even warning us, don't go into Bastogne, it's this, this. We just couldn't comprehend American soldiers going the wrong direction. It stunned me, frankly. But when we got in there, it was one heck of a mess. And the MPs, they were standing in the middle of town directing traffic that was going every which way, and shells were pouring. They stood on their position and held their position and kept their job
and
going.
tried to keep
keep
organization
orderly,
in the middle of the chaos. That's fantastic. Another, of course, feature, you can't talk about Bastogne without talking about how cold and the bad weather conditions. That's because that actually allowed the Germans to make the attack.
Yeah, because they were prepared for it. I went into Bastogne with just a flight jacket my brother gave me in England. And it was a cloth jacket with a little fur jacket. And that's all I had. And I could feel the eyes on me when I started shelling because that jacket would have been off of me before I hit the floor.
Everybody wanted your jacket.
Oh, yeah.
So what were, and you guys really couldn't build fires.
Well,
just keep warm. What were some things you had to do to keep warm?
Well, pray.
Pray?
That helped. And hope that we would get some relief from the air because it was cloudy and everything. We couldn't get any aircraft in there. And we were running down out of it. By that time, I was with the regiment at the time, right across the patio from McAuliffe's headquarters, the general involved.
The famous general who gave the reply of nuts.
I found out much, much later that he was a fraternity brother of mine. I didn't know it at the time.
Which fraternity is that?
The Sigma Phi Epsilon.
Sigma Phi Epsilon,
Yeah.
outstanding.
Yeah.
Another thing that you already mentioned before is you got to be with the guys when you're right at the end of the war, when you went to Berchtesgaden, and you actually went up to it's called the Elder Horst or the Eagle's Nest?
Yeah, the Eagle's Nest. I used to go up there every day.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a Jeep that I didn't realize was stolen, but I would drive that and it would jump into neutral all the time. And I'd be fighting those gears trying to keep in. And one time there was a general up there an English general wanted a ride down. And I said, oh yes, I'll get Morgan, his name was. And I said, yes, I'm going down. She said, can I? Of course you can. And I was jumping into neutral on those hairpin turns. Oh man, he said, you were in a hurry, weren't you? I said, yes, I had to get back to the hotel at a certain time, and so I wanted to get there in time. He didn't know we almost went off a number of times.
Right, numerous times, that would have been bad. Pardon me. And what were some of the things you remember seeing up there, or what were you doing with your buddies? Were you just
Well, I was with the division then.
Right, with division?
Yeah, and the division surgeon sent me to the Berchtesgadenhof, the hotel, because we were going to convert it to visitors coming in from all over the world. And I checked it out and went back, and I said, it's all taken care of. He said, oh, did you move in? I said, yes. Well, that made me the house physician, a staff sergeant medic with Boy Scout training.
Boy Scout training, oh my goodness.
And for medic, you know.
You were the man in charge, that's fantastic. Of course, lots of folks, millions of people have seen the miniseries Band of Brothers, and I just wanted to ask your opinion. What do you think, out of the whole series, what's something or a couple of things you think they really captured correctly, and people who view it can get some sort of idea of what your real experiences were like?
Well, initially, the company was against their captain because the regimental commander, Colonel Sink, wanted to have the best regiment in the country,
right,
in the army, and Captain Sobel wanted his company to be the best in the regiment.
Best company in the regiment.
Yeah, so he trained beyond what we were trained, which was pretty tough. We didn't do regular basic training.
Right.
And we ran the Curry every day and stuff like that, the 3 mile up and down business. And so he trained him very hard. His only problem was, they had 2 problems. One, he couldn't read a map, and he couldn't find his way out of a paper bag, you know. So they lost confidence in that fella.
Right, right.
And after the war, by the way, they all say that he was the one that toughened them up. That's the one that was the key to their being the kind of guys they were. But it was developed on a negative basis. And then they took him out finally. They thought there was going to be a mutiny.
Right.
And there wasn't no baby. I knew the sergeants pretty well. And they put Dick Winters in there. Well, Dick Winters was just the opposite. He didn't go to town and have fun with the other fellow officers or anything. He would study tactics and that sort of thing on his off time. And he had a lot of respect for his people and under his command. And he also was firm but fair. So they had a lot of confidence in him, and the attitude switched 180 degrees to a positive. And one of the guys that was against one of the sergeants, Mike Rainey, was the one that came up with the term Band of Brothers. After the war.
After taken from the famous
because he was pretty well read, and he eventually went into advertising and stuff. He was pretty sharp young man. Died young. They all did, it seemed like. So that's how that Band of Brothers came about. And we've been pretty closely bonded. And the whole division's closely bonded to this day.
To this day.
Oh, to this day. I've been to Camp Campbell and stuff. They all take names like Currahee and Bastogne and stuff like that. You know.
Outstanding.
And the people that did the miniseries, they named their kids after the guys. They bonded with them too.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something you can really tell and really feel by watching the various videos associated with the making of the series and the interaction.
Well, now these are just, you know, I hear the question so often. I mean, the comments so I couldn't do what you guys did. We were ordinary citizens at one time. Guys you probably wouldn't want to relate to later on or before.
Right.
And yet we had to get together as a team.
Right.
You had to be able to rely on each other.
Right.
And you all had the same common goal. And I said, you don't know what you can do until they're put to the test. Most of you would do well. People have more resilience and stick to it. And that's why I have so much confidence in our future. We have a lot of straight arrows in this country.
And I was actually going to ask you that. How do you see, what if you could give, because you had a wonderful career after as a psychologist, you've done a heck of a lot of things. I mean, if you could have just one or two pieces of advice for a young man or a young woman, say in their 20s, who's watching this video, I mean, what would you say to them?
Well, I don't know. I think believe in yourself to begin with, and serve your community. I think that's very important. Most of the people that are in the service or law enforcement, they're equal in that respect, are dedicated to helping people. And the nursing profession, the teaching profession. Another thing is having to do with how you look at tasks. Every task is a mission, whether you're shoveling the sidewalk or going into combat, and that is to be focused. And that's why I don't think there are any such things as heroes. They're all focused on their mission. That's good training is involved there. And thereby you can concentrate all your knowledge and efforts on succeeding in your mission. And it has to do with walking downstairs or anything else. Focus on what you're doing.
Focus on what you're doing and just keep going.
And I give talks to the police chiefs invite me to come and talk about teamwork. They don't want prima donnas. They want teams. And that was one of the things I think we got out of that, is teamwork.
Especially with, as you said, the hard training under Captain Sobel, 3 miles up, 3 miles down. Yeah. You guys suffered together through that.
Yeah.
But it did make, as you said, it made you all tougher.
Oh, it made us pretty tough, yeah. We were just ordinary guys otherwise. The first time I took 90 guys up that mountain, I came back with 6. The rest of them were going to kill me, but they were too sick to do anything to anyone. After a while, again, training, 90 up, 90 down, never stopped, came back, and then went to the obstacle course.
Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Now, I've watched it and getting ready to talk to you today, and it's been very enjoyable talking with you today, sir. I watched some videos, and I saw a video of you telling a funny story with a great big syringe that you convinced somebody he was going to get a shot. Would you be willing to tell that story?
Well, that's the next step in the story about syringes and stuff.
Oh,
the first one had to do with Captain Sobel, who was after my hide because I was borrowing parts off his German motorcycle to run the one that I was borrowing that didn't have all the parts. And he was forever after me. This is in England. And trying to find me, and I'd go out the back. He was a big former cavalry guy. And I was a towering 5'6", but no match, you know. And he finally, we're all lined up for shots. We gave the shot.
Right.
And I noticed he was perspiring. Oh, one of those You know, nothing wrong with it. Some people just cannot take shots.
They don't like needles.
And I
yes.
waited till one of my men was going to give him a shot. Just as he's going to stick, and he's bracing himself, I said, take 5 right now. And he took off, and I said, I'll do this one. So I went over there and poking him. Captain, I'm right here. What is it you want to see me about? Oh, this is a dull needle. Let me get another one. So I take that and put a needle in his arm, put my thumb, gave him the shot, put my thumb over the skin where the needle was, pulled the syringe out. Oh, the needle's still in the arm, Captain.
God.
Let me get that out. And I took that out. Captain, I'm right here. What is it? Forget it. I don't want to talk to you. He was about ready to hit the floor by that time. Now, the next
He
guy...
suddenly lost all interest in the missing motorcycle parts.
He didn't think that was such a bad move on my part, I guess. But then somebody got their revenge because one of the guys coming up, I knew was afraid of shots.
Right.
So I set up a syringe about 7 inches or so.
Like something you would give a shot to a horse with.
Well, yeah, or an elephant.
Or an elephant.
And then there was a big syringe, and then I put a needle on. The whole thing was about like that. And I filled it with water, and I stood at the door waiting for this guy. And when he came, I squirted this in the air. It went up in the air and came down. He got Popeye and he took off. And I'm chasing him. We're pumping this thing as I'm going. And we went into town, and he makes a turn.
You chased him into town?
Oh, yeah. Well, he's reluctant. And so I made the turn, and there's a Major Horton coming the other way. He said, Sergeant, where are you going? I said, he's reluctant to take his shot. He looks at me, he says, I think you ought to confine that to the dispensary. I've got this cannon here, you know. And he's down at the other sheet waving his fingers at me like this.
Oh,
he
God.
got me.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
War is terrible.
Right. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about, sir?
Well, I think the memorable experience I had was when I was out taking care of Lieutenant Brewer out in the middle of a field when we were heading towards Eindhoven,
Mm-hmm.
and I was with the battalion surgeon, and we're in this sparse woods. You can see everybody, and they're calling for a medic. I says, that's E Company. Why are we getting? I got a medic in every platoon. So I said, I'm going up to see what's going on. He said, goodbye. I never saw him anymore after that, come to think of it. Anyway, I went up to the edge of the woods, and there was a ditch there, and I said, what's the problem? They're pointing out there. I said, who's that lying out there? He was out in the middle of the field. The guy lying out there looked like Ted Danson, the big, tall, skinny guy.
Yeah.
And he was leading his platoon across that field like John Wayne, waving his map case, you know, come on, boys, let's go. And stuff. Well, target for today, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So the Germans shot him right through the neck.
Oh,
They
goodness.
thought his troops thought he was dead, and they left him there and went back, fell back into the woods. And then so I was walking, I was hurting anyway, so I just walked out there and it was quiet. And I sat down next to him, told him who I was and that I would take care of him. And then we had to set up our own plasma in the field, mix them, distilled water in the plasma. We didn't wash dishes, and I finally found a vein because it was yellow as jaundice, you know, and veins were collapsing. And then the medic came out that was supposed to be to help me, and the Germans started opening up again. And he clipped, this guy's name was Holland too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
He clipped him in the heel, so he took off and went back to the unit in the woods. And then I've heard a crack, and I said, gee, they broke the bottle. No, it's okay. I never dawned on me they were shooting at me. And then the dirt starts kicking up all around me.
So you're still out in the field with the wounded
with
man
Brewer.
with the bottle of plasma hooked up
Yeah,
to
I'm
him.
holding it up so
Right.
get a gravity feed, you know.
Right.
And I lie down next to him. I said, in my best bedtime manner, I said, Lieutenant, are you dead? Because if you're dead, I'm leaving. As if he's going to answer me. He said, he croaked out, no, I don't know why not. I said, okay, I'll stay right here, don't worry. And then 3 other guys came out to help, and they got shot. Oh
my
man.
goodness.
And there were 6 of us all told when the thing was over with. And then the Dutch came running out with a big long ladder. They put Brewer on the ladder, and they took off towards those, there were 4 houses there, and they took off with the second one from the left, the Germans on the right-hand one. And I said, oh no, they're taking my patient in the wrong direction. We're that way, you know, they're taking them where the Germans are. So they went, and then the other 3 guys were hauled out of there. And I was hit. Suddenly like a mule kicked me and laid my leg open like a lamb, right down the bone. And I said, oh boy, I'm hurt. So I gave myself a shot of morphine. By the way, I never during the whole war thought I'd die. Never did. I never thought of it. And I was able to get patched up. They helped me patch my leg up. And then we went to, and then I followed them. There was a wagon run went right to the house that they'd taken him in, and the other guy. And I was able to get there on my own with the bad one on the flat ground and the other one in the rut. And then there was a woman at the end hollering tote. Somebody had killed somebody in her house. It might have been a German, it might have been a Dutch when they fired at the house too. They picked up his
right.
And then they, or our people, I don't know, but there wasn't anything I could do for somebody dead anyway. So I went in the house, and it was a nice little clean floor. There was a Dutch woman in the house. The civilians are right there too.
Right,
you know.
right.
Man, and morphine started working on me. So she caught her right away. She went and got a bowl. I'm not going to mess up her nice clean floor.
Right.
You know, and she was appreciative of that. And then we got patched up, and there was a little dirt path in front of a car, big enough for a cart or something. And then there was the main road, sort of a main road, from Zaan to Eindhoven. And a Dutch doctor showed up from somewhere. I have letters from him that he had written to Bob Brewer later on, but that his daughter gave me. But I never saw him anymore. And they had found a cart, and they'd put the other casualties on the cart, and they were standing at the corner, and this Dutch doctor was for our going to Eindhoven. I knew Eindhoven hadn't been taken yet. I said, no, we should go to Zaan because we know we have an aid station there.
Right.
And then and then some Germans on that field behind the house started coming, about a platoon of them, and they started firing at us. And they took off towards Zaan. They had cut us off from going that. I know. And I drove into a round German foxhole, which was right there, because I couldn't run or anything. So, and two Dutch guys pulled me out. They put me on this wheelbarrow that you were talking about earlier.
Right.
And we went running down the road, and the Germans stopped firing. I guess they figured we weren't worth it.
So the man you ran out into the field under fire, he made it. Did he survive?
Oh yeah, he was singing in a choir. He was a member of my same church, as a matter of fact. Not my particular church, but out there near where the Ponderosa was, out there in, Lake Tahoe. They had a place in Reno and stuff.
And years later, you had some letters, as you said, from the Dutch
His
doctor.
daughter.
His daughter had some letters from the Dutch doctor.
Brewer, yeah.
Yes, the Brewer.
And my daughter, my youngest daughter, and her husband had met the mother. And I know the daughter, and my daughter knows the daughter too.
That's a heck of a story.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. So how long were you?
Oh, by the way, the fellow survived, ended up as a major in Laos. And one of our people was assigned out there, and he said, who's the commanding officer? He said, Bob Brewer, Major Brewer. Brewer, because they were in the same unit.
Right.
Yeah, and so when he went in to introduce him and to get, welcome and everything, Brewer's first question is, where's my watch?
Where's my watch?
Where's my watch? Because they took his watch, They'd take anything off it when he got hurt. And but that was how he was greeted. Where's my watch?
Where's my watch? Oh, to see that guy's face when he got asked that question.
It wasn't the greeting he expected.
Yes.
But that's the story I kind of want to include.
That is a fantastic story. How long did it take you to get patched up and to get recovered after?
I got back in time. A short while later, we went to Bastrop. That's why I only had that jacket. My brother gave it. He was with Jimmy Stewart's outfit, and he was a teletype operator up in Norwich, England. There's some interesting stories there too.
I wish I had enough time to ask you all the questions, get all those stories.
Some of them are true.
Well, I was hoping some of them were being true, but you sure know how to tell a story, sir. It's very fun talking to you.
It's fun being with people. There are so many nice people in this world you can't believe. And we have so many solid citizens that are there. The Europeans think we are mamby-pambies, Americans, fun-loving, materialistic. They have never learned, in spite of their experience, that when the chips are down, we measure up, more than measure up. I have a nephew that's in a helicopter, Apache helicopter pilot. He's down in Leavenworth, just got back from Saudi Arabia, and been to Afghanistan and everything, with my unit even. and he can't wait. He wants to go back to my unit again. He can't wait to be with the people that are going to make a difference.
So to this day, you have family members still in the 101st
Oh, yeah.
Airborne.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
Yeah. It's and there's so many young people that are civilians, high school age kids, young folks like yourself, and that are really solid citizens. Really, they don't make a big noise, but they're there. I think we're going to go through a little bit of a tough time, but I think in the long run we'll prevail and be better for it.
And as long as you said earlier, as long as you just focus on whatever your mission is and just keep working.
Absolutely. I have a mission, I think, and that is to relate to people in such a way that they allow themselves to come out of their shells in a non-threatening way so that they can come out of their shells. Because everybody has a lot more in them and to give and to realize than they are actually realizing at the time. And I like that.
And it is a fun thing to discover. How long have you been coming to SHOT Show?
Oh, this, I think, the fourth or fifth one I can.
Fourth or fifth one?
Don't ask me what I had for breakfast.
I won't do that. I won't do that. But what are you having for lunch?
I don't know. They're promising. They're threatening me with lunch too.
Threatening with lunch. Still going? Okay.
You know, my friend Pepping, we talk every day. He lives in Whittier, California. He's a lot of fun. As a matter of fact, when we were in Minnesota, we were being interviewed on the radio, and the phone board lit up. They want to know when the comedy hour is going to start.
When the comedy hour
is going to be repeated.
Because it's you and Ed.
We just talk that way all the time. We don't try to be funny. We just have a lot of fun with each other. Yeah. The other day he said, "I wonder how many we killed trying to save him." I said, "Oh, I hope we didn't kill anyone." We were Neanderthal medics. Pepping and I were both Boy Scouts. Mm-hmm. Most of our training was what we got as Boy Scouts. Very little compared to pre-med courses they go through now practically. I've seen what they do. And they find parts now that I didn't even know existed in a body. But the one difference was that one added thing that we got was giving shots, because we gave the shot.
Right.
And they used oranges.
So you trained giving shots on
oranges because of the texture, and they still do in some places. But that shows you the typical Army. We never saw an orange in combat. So what the heck was all that training about?
And oranges, as you said, oranges don't get up and run down the street when you come in with a big needle.
The only time we ever saw oranges, we got some from Jaffa, and there was a bomb in it. A bomb in the crate.
A bomb in the crate of oranges.
Yeah, blew up, so we didn't get the oranges.
You didn't get the oranges. You got orange juice, but not the oranges.
Yeah. Put the squeeze on us.
Did former members of your unit, did you guys start, how early in the process did you guys start getting back together? I mean, you came back to the States after the war.
Yeah.
All split up with your separate ways.
But we were all still bonded. But when I would have lunch with, or supper or something with even a member of my own medic group, and we never talked about the war. Mm-hmm. We talked about families and things that ordinarily people would talk about, you know. And but never mentioned the war. It wasn't until the Band of Brothers came out and our families were growing that we could go back and meet with these guys again and stuff. People we hadn't seen years and years before.
Who was one of your favorite people to reconnect with?
Well, Ed Pepping, one, and I got to get together with Babe Heffron and Wild Bill Garnier and some of those various fundraising things, we remembered each other right away. Called out your name, even though we looked uglier and everything.
You hadn't seen each other in 30 or 40 years by that point.
We were at a division get-together dinner, you know, one time. My wife was looking around. I said, "What are you looking at?" She says, "How did you ever win the war with these guys?" She had a sense of humor.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thanks. Well, Al, thank you so much. It's been an absolute joy to talk to you today.
Well, it's nice talking to you.
It's my privilege to get to meet you and speak with you. I very, very much enjoyed this. I just want to say thank you all for watching so much, and keep watching for more videos on Brownells Facebook Live, and enjoy our SHOT Show coverage. Thank you again, Al.
Thank you. It's my pleasure too, you know.